te diviertas y podamos compartir. Río danza, danza, guayo, guayo. Río danza, danza, guayo, guayo. Río danza, danza, guayo, guayo. Guayo, 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 guayo.
Welcome to the Wilburn Fantasy Football League for 2014. I am Don Jr. We have an exciting season this year ahead of us. It looks like we've got 16 teams from across the country have joined the league to vie for this year's prize. Each of the teams is assigned to a division corresponding to their region or state. We're going to go ahead and break down all four divisions, starting with California, the Sunshine State. We know that they're looking to bring the trophy west, actually looking to keep the trophy out west, as my understanding is that Mike, my brother Mike, is the one who won last year's Wilburn Fantasy Football League for 2013, and he is currently the prize winner, champion, etc., whatever. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of us in here now, and we're not looking to the past. This is all the future, all 16-man Wilburn Fantasy Football, all new teams, and yeah, as far as we're concerned, this is a completely new game now. This is the hardest thing you can do is play 16-man fantasy football, and this is what we're tackling. We'll go ahead and jump into the California League. We have Dog Day Afternoon, which is coached by Unique Wilburn. She was sitting at 15th in the draft. It's funny how that works out. The newest married couple sitting at 15, and then her husband Mike was sitting at 16. I don't know how that happens. I mean, I happen to be at my dad's house, and I swear I didn't mess with the computer in the drafting, even though I know my wife was still first after 2 rounds of two random things. My wife was first, and then Mike and Yonit. Welcome to the family, 15-16. Okay, let's go ahead and say Dog Day Afternoon, coached by Yonit Wilburn, sitting at 15th in the draft. She'll be centering her team on some key players. She picked up Tom Brady, quarterback from New England Patriots, and Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver from the Arizona Cardinals, and Marshawn Lynch, the running back for Seattle. God, I hope I have that right in my notes. Followed by Scorched Earth. Yes, that is her husband. He is coached by Mike Wilburn. He drafted 16th and is looking to repeat as league champion. His team will be centered on running back Monty Bell and Bengals receiver A.J. Green. We'll see how that works out for him. It seemed to work out okay because he was picking in pairs, basically back-to-back picks every round, or every other round. We have LeBronziel. We have Galan, who's joined us in the league this year. He's already started the trash talking. He's one of the first ones. He congratulated me on my mistake of picking up 2 tight ends back-to-back. Thank you for, Southern Texas Energy for letting my power go out in the middle of a live draft. So trash talking has gone on. I expect that to continue. Good job, Galan. He drafted 8th and has Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Was his first pick. He picked up Doug Martin, the running back from Tampa Bay. And those two will be leading the effort on his team this week as we head into the season. And to close out the California division, we have the Tybee Titans, coached by Bill Aste. He kind of squares off, and I say square because there's four corners, 4 sides, blah blah blah. I know, poor sense of humor, whatever. He drafted 3rd, and he heads into the fray with Adrian Peterson of Minnesota and Jeremy Nelson, the wide receiver from Green Bay. So we'll see how the California League pairs up, and it's looking to be a pretty fun and challenging league. And it's interesting that the champion from last year drafted 16th, so we'll see how that goes. We'll jump all the way across the country over to the Florida League, and we start off with Berg's Blasters, coached by Jeff Berg. He drafted 14th in the league. His first 3 picks were Demaryius Thomas, wide receiver of Denver. It's a no-brainer there. Very easy, one of the top wide receivers in the league. Added to that, Russell Wilson, the quarterback for Seattle, which is expected to be a high-power offense this year, and also Randall Cobb, the wide receiver from Green Bay, which is great because that teams up with Aaron Rodgers. So he picked up a good wide group. If you're looking at the top 3 offenses, or 3 of the top 5 probably offenses in the NFL, he's got a player on each of those, which is going to mean that Berg's Blasters should actually put up a decent amount of points every single week. Following that, we have the Mighty Manatees by my stepmother, Eileen Wilburn, the now great-grandmother of the Wilburn clan. She is the matriarch of the family. That's right, you are the matriarch of the family, the great-grandmother. She started off with the running back of Matt Forte, the running back out of Chicago, and jumped in Le'Veon Bell, out of running back out of Pittsburgh. Now, I know everyone got their email today. I don't know if you checked it or saw this and that, but the email was saying that the best running back pickup in the league was done by Eileen, and in picking up those 2 players, she topped it off with the wide receiver from the Buccaneers, Vincent Jackson. So we're looking for her to be a powerhouse in playing this year. Feel sorry for the Florida teams that had to play her twice. Add to that now the patriarch of the family, red zone penetration, my dad, Don Sr. He started off with Eddie Lacy, the running back from Green Bay. He picked up Des Bryant, which is funny because he picked up a Dallas thing. He's always giving me a hard time about being Dallas, but Des Bryant seems to be a pretty surefire bet. And topped it off with Cam Newton, which is good because when I talked to my dad before the draft, he said he was really high on rushing quarterbacks because you get the rushes. Rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns, yardage, etc. Cam Newton seems to be a good solid bet for this year's season. To close out the Florida division, we got Bills Bruisers by Bill Freeve. Hope I pronounce these right for everyone. He went with Gio Bernard, first pick, running back out of Cincinnati. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Cincinnati was a sleeper team last year. Actually came on strong during the year and did pretty well. We'll see how Gio Bernard does for him at Cincinnati. Quarterback from Atlanta, Matt Ryan, who's actually expected to move up in this year's fantasy rankings. He is a high-powered quarterback. There'll be a lot of throwing. Atlanta offense is greatly improved from the outstanding job they did last year. Then he picked up Shane Vereen, the running back out of New England. And I can't tell you much out of him because I try to personally stay away from New England because I think Bill Belichick personally hates fantasy footballs and therefore likes to have this rotary style of tight ends, receivers, and running backs. And he spreads it out so much that it'll actually kill a fantasy team. So we'll see how Shane Vereen works out for Bill this year. Now we're jumping up a little bit north, going to Georgia. We have the Georgia League. We've got Dylan Mormon, who was a late second addition to the league. He drafted number 2. Now, I think one thing I want to comment on, the Georgia division should be set up very, very well. The good thing is, for the rest of us, is that they have to play each other twice. And that's good because they drafted in the positions of 2, 4, 5, and 10. Meaning that they had a great pick to start off, and of course then they back it up with good picks afterwards. Dylan jumped in there, and he picked up, right off the bat, number 2 pick, Peyton Manning, which is about right. Sometimes he goes somewhere in the top 3, and he ended up going number 2 for our league quarterback out of Denver. Now, the big thing to watch out for is to see if Peyton Manning can actually repeat what he did last year, throwing 55 touchdowns, and a lot of the experts are saying there's no way he's going to be able to do that. He's also playing in a division where you've got Seattle and St. Louis and San Francisco, and it's going to be one of the toughest. It's for the monster division of the NFL this year of the powerhouse teams. And the tough thing is only one of them is going to be division leader, and they got to battle each other twice. So we'll see how Peyton Manning works out this year, coming off of last year's back surgery. Throw into that Zach Stacy, running back out of St. Louis. Again, another West team, and Antonio Brown, wide receiver of Pittsburgh. Dylan is considered to have the best draft of the league this year, at least by the CBS Fantasy team, how they're talking about. Now, of course, you could take that with a grain of salt, and I don't want I'm going to talk about Jonathan a little bit later, and you get into his Jonathan Arlena's team saying that they had the worst draft of the league. But I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt, Dylan, so you can feel good going into this first week. We haven't played a thing. You're ranked number 1. You're expected to win the league. But I do want to tell you, this is the same recap that told my wife, Elaine, that after picking McCoy as one of her picks, that her best pickup of her entire draft was picking up Tony Romo onto her team. So somehow when your entire season is based on Tony Romo being the best of your team for fantasy football, and CBS saying that's the best thing you can do after picking up McCoy, the number 1 or arguably number 1 or 2 running back in the league. Yeah, okay. So go ahead. That's it, though. I want you to be confident, Dylan. Go into this really strong. Go play what you got to play, and see if you can bring it home. Touchdownton Abbey is our soon-to-be fiance, sister-in-law. I don't even actually know what the term for that is. Jim's fiance, Kristen Zolsel, soon to be, by the end of the season, she will be our sister. Of course, that depends on how well her team does against Jim. My understanding is that Jim does take these things a little bit personal, so we got to watch out for collusion between those two, between Touchdownton Abbey and the Vanderbilt Vengeance, though I'm not sure exactly who Vanderbilt is getting vengeance on. Maybe he feels that he lost last year. Whatever. Let's go back down to Touchdownton Abbey. Kristen's also pulled out a good thing, picking up one of the top 3 quarterbacks. She picked Drew Brees, quarterback of the Saints, who's also expected to repeat and do very well this year. Of the top 3 quarterbacks, he's one of the only 3 who is not listed as with some kind of injury or recurring something going on with him, so that should do well. She also picked up Arian Foster, the running back out of Houston. Now we'll see how that works out, because Houston, which was predicted to do very well last year, ended up being one of the worst teams in the league. Now, when you get to be one of the worst teams in the league, you very rarely rely on your running game, so we'll see if that comes back and bites her, though Arian Foster is a very good, talented running back. Toby Gerhart is running back out of Jacksonville to back him up. should be a good addition and a good backup to the points to see, Arian Foster play some of the tougher teams to see how he's able to hold out and how the offensive line of Houston is able to hold up and support him. Moving into PMS, Duncan Mormon. Now, of course, first thing that went through my head when I saw this was Duncan and Dylan in the exact same league. And I was like, okay, what could possibly be going on? And I looked at it as the draft went on. I know my wife, like I said, my wife took McCoy. Elaine took McCoy as the first pick, and then, of course, Dylan turned around to pick up Peyton Manning. Now, I was surprised because Jamal Charles, who was arguably ranked as the number one running back in the entire league, then sat and was undrafted. And it wasn't until Dylan's dad, Duncan, got up to draft that all of a sudden Jamal Charles, the number 2 running back in the league, is available at number 4 when he wouldn't normally be. I think we're going to have to watch those two. Duncan then followed up his excellent pick on Jamal Charles with Julio Jones, the outstanding wide receiver of Atlanta, and Jay Cutler, quarterback out of Chicago, both of which are expected to be very high point getters this year in fantasy. We have Vanderbilt Vengeance closing out the Georgia division. This is by Dr. Jimmy Wilburn, that's right, who will be leading the Vanderbilt Vengeance this year to try to get revenge on his brother Mike, who basically just beat him down last year during the season, and both of them were they had some anger issues last year based on fantasy football, from my understanding. Now, I wasn't in the league last year. This is just hearsay from what I hear between talking to one complaining about the other and screaming at the phone and computer and at the TV screen. So, Kristen and you're going to have to watch for this. You're going to have to watch for this. They get a little upset. But Jim started off with Jimmy Graham, the tight end of the Saints, picked up the number 1 tight end in the game, which is good because in a 16-man league, you kind of want to focus on about 2 of the most quality players that you can get. Build your team around that. So he started with Jimmy Graham, tight end of the Saints, followed up with Nick Foles, the quarterback from Philadelphia, which is a good pickup because Nick Foles was listed lower than Tony Romo, but was one of those sleepers that everyone's saying, although they don't expect him to have as good a season as he had last year with regards to the touchdown to interception ratio, Nick Foles should actually turn around and still continue to be a good, solid quarterback. The good thing is Nick Foles gets to play the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Redskins twice each, which should allow him to put up some significant numbers, and in those weeks, if you're playing against Vanderbilt, you might want to pull out all the special things that you can possibly do because Nick Foles is going to put up some serious points in those weeks, especially when they play Dallas. And I say that, and Dallas is my team. And he filled those out, and he filled out his top 3 with the running back C.J. Spiller out of Buffalo, again, one of the top-ranked running backs, and the top 10 running back for fantasy football. Now we're going to close it out and go to our 4th and final division, the Texas division. This is kind of a crazy one. I think we're almost all new players in this division. We start with Crazy Legs, Jonathan Arlena Aquino. This is their first year joining the Wilburn Fantasy Football League. Colin Kaepernick is the quarterback, which is kind of a surprise draft. I didn't know what was going on here. I was surprised to see him go. Colin, I think, was actually listed as like a 6 or 7 quarterback. But again, you kind of got to look at those things like the way my dad looks at it. He is a good rushing, strong quarterback. He's huge and he's strong and he's healthy right now. So we'll see how he goes. Hopefully, the preseason an indication of how he's going to go. Picked up Alfred Morris, a running back out of Washington, which might be a little of a stretch, and Terrence Williams, a wide receiver of Dallas. Jumped down to Nomo Romo, which is my team. And of course, I was not going to take Romo. I was surprised when Calvin Johnson, the number 1 receiver in the game, fell into my lap at 13, so I picked him up, wide receiver out of Detroit. Immediately followed by the quarterback I wanted. Andrew Luck was the guy I wanted to have as my primary, who I expected to be available at my primary. And then I made a surprise, that's right, I jumped ahead and I was slammed for it as one of the worst moves of the entire draft. So we're going to see how this pays off. When I jumped ahead on my 3rd pick, and probably 3 to 4 rounds early, picked up the Seahawks defense. But I wanted to make sure they got some quality in those. Seahawks defense was ranked so much higher than all the other defenses. I think the Rams might be the only ones that might be a little bit closer than some of the other ones. But we'll see how that pays off. It'll be a surprise this year. Now, followed by the number 1 drafter in the league, Quack Attack, which is led by my wife, Elaine. And she started off the draft, as I said, with LaShawn McCoy, the running back out of Philadelphia, predicted to be number 1. Actually, I've seen a couple of the ESPN reports stating that LaShawn McCoy is expected to possibly hit 2,000 yards rushing. Of course, if he does that, LaShawn McCoy is going to put up some monster numbers during the fantasy week. And so we'll see how that works out. So then turned around and picked up Tony Romo, another good pick. Now, I'm making in the argument here, the good thing is if you look at the entire breakdown as I did, they say that Dylan had the top draft grade basically coming out of this, and that Elaine actually had the number 2 draft. And I think that Tony, even though I'm not a Tony Romo fan, can you tell, Nomo Romo, I think Tony Romo is probably one of those good things, the guys who picked up DeMarco Murray, Des Bryant, particularly Des Bryant, Terrence Williams, and Tony Romo, I think are really going to be paying off, and of course Witten. is really going to pay off this year, because I think the Cowboys are going to lose a lot, but I think they're going to be shutouts. And if you think about the numbers that Tony Romo put up last year, I think it was 7 touchdowns, or 6 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, somewhere like that, when they went head-to-head against Denver. The offense of the Cowboys is even more improved than it was last year. It is a very high-scoring, high-power offense. The thing that counters that is the Cowboys have the absolute worst defense, which means they're going to find themselves in a shootout most of the season. And you may see absolutely outstanding numbers coming out of Romo, Bryant, Witten, and Williams. So we're going to see if that pays off. So you then turn around and also picked up the wide receiver Brandon Marshall out of Chicago, another good high scorer for Fantasy Football League. So we'll see if that number 2 spot prediction holds out, or if she can pull up into number 1. And then the last one is Hug Nizzles for Shizzles by Wayne Huggins. He started out with the running back Mad Stafford out of Detroit, which should be good. It was the quarterback out of Detroit, which should be good because he's got Calvin Johnson as his primary target, and no one can cover Calvin Johnson. Followed up with DeMarco Murray. The only thing I caution him on DeMarco Murray again is going against the high power offense. Cowboys find themselves behind. They start rushing a lot less. Last year, I think they were almost a 60% passing team. But DeMarco Murray has shown, as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to put up some serious numbers, averaging probably 4 and 5 yards a carry. To see how that works out. Also picking up Andre Johnson to round out his top trio for his team. Andre Johnson, the wide receiver of Houston. And there we go. We have a breakdown of the entire division to see how it's going to go. Now, one of the things I want to look at, again, take with a grain of salt everything that CBS tells you with your Fantasy Football League. You're going to get some news in this and that. I'm going to tell you the real story. Every week on Tuesdays, I'm going to be bringing you this report saying how everyone did, how you did well, how you did bad or did poorly, who you left on your bench, where you left your points, and kind of give you a little bit of hints and tips here and there. I hope everyone had a great time in the draft yesterday. It was fantastic. We got through it in an hour and a half, which is amazing for a 16 team. I thank everyone who was ready, except for my brother Mike, who seemed, he seemed to take a long time, back-to-back picks. If you couldn't make your mind up between 2 players, you'd be able to take them both. I don't understand that. But luckily, Yonit was there to keep him in line. I hope everyone has a great first week. Remember, this week's game, the NFL season, starts this week on Thursday. If you've got players that are playing on Thursday's game, make sure you get those players in. Next week, I will be back, and I will go over the results of the Week 1 result and do a kind of a preview of Week 2. Hope everyone has enjoyed this. I will see you next week. Bye.
Para que te diviertas y podamos compartir. Río danza, 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 río danza, danza.